Hey, it's Jen. I promised you a video post on Friday but didn't get around to it, and I actually got a ton of really great questions and topic requests, so I wanted to try to touch on some of those today. I'm not going to make it through all of them, but I really do want to get more in the habit of doing these video posts a little bit more frequently. I got on a good streak this summer, but then it kind of died off. But I feel like this is a great way for me to connect with you guys and for you to kind of see me in person and interact a little bit more than the formality of writing. Okay, while I have you, I also want to thank you for being really awesome and supporting me so much over the last few weeks as I've finally kind of opened up about what I'm dealing with personally. It's really difficult for me to share these kinds of things, not only with the internet, but also with my own friends and family. I've mentioned this on the blog before, but I'm a lot more, I tend to be more private and kind of keep things in and be like, you know, I'm fine, let's just move on, I'm over this, I've got this, let's go. I have a hard time kind of reaching out sometimes and asking people for help. And it feels nice that I was kind of able to do that and share with you guys what I'm dealing with and to feel supported. So thank you very much for all of your kind words, for your encouragement, for your positive energy, for all the messages that you've sent. It really means more to me than you can even imagine. So thank you. I get just as much out of writing this blog every day as some of you, I guess, do from reading it. It's really rewarding for me to connect with all of you. And I would do this blog, you know, no matter what. If I had 5 readers or 5,000 readers, it's just one of my favorite things to do. So that said, it is very cold today in North Carolina. It's kind of like our first real day of, I guess you would say, like winter weather. It's gray and windy, and I'm sitting on a heating pad in my office because I have all these windows and they make it freezing in here. I'm also not very smart and I'm wearing shorts as always, so I need to embrace the pants now that the weather is changing. And while we're on that topic, I also just wanted to send my positive thoughts and energy to all of you that are being affected by Hurricane Sandy and all the remnants of that. So I hope that everybody stays safe and dry and warm and that you are okay. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the questions now that we're 2.5 minutes into this video and I haven't started that yet. Okay, so I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to cover a few today and I'll check back in with you guys again in a few days. So Carolyn wants to know, CrossFit versus BodyPump, if I could only do one, which would I pick? And that's actually a tough one for me. I would say that I lean more towards BodyPump for all over muscle toning. And for me, CrossFit is more of like all over general fitness. BodyPump is the first time that I ever like trained with weights. I guess that was probably 5 years ago. And it made such a huge difference in the shape of my body. So I would have a really hard time just giving that up. And also like where I started with BodyPump, like using the itty bitty baby weights and feeling like I was dying, I've made huge strength gains just from doing BodyPump. I mean, I know you see that a ton in CrossFit too, but I think there's a lot to be said for BodyPump as well. It's a formula that's safe for a huge range of people, and if it's accessible for you in your gym, it's definitely a class that I would recommend for pretty much everyone. It can be modified for everyone's ability. The issue with BodyPump though is that a lot of times I feel like I need to supplement my BodyPump with cardio, whereas I feel like I get that a little bit more in CrossFit. I feel like it's more of like my overall fitness, a lot of that high intensity interval training that really gets my heart rate up. After CrossFit, I feel like I'm kind of like done for the day. So that's kind of my thought on that. I love both of them and couldn't imagine not having, you know, either in my workout mix. I'm lucky that I can do that. Okay, we'll move on. Colby wants to know what my thoughts are on forks over knives, aka doing a lifestyle of primarily plant-based foods and eliminating animal protein for the most part. First of all, I have to say that I have not seen the movie. I know that it's something that I should check out. I've heard great things. But this is kind of an interesting topic for me in general because I would say for probably the better part of 3 years, I followed about a 75 or 80% vegetarian diet. And just back in, I guess it was probably March or April, I started reintroducing a lot of lean protein into my diet. And I actually feel a million times better. I feel like I recover quicker from my workouts. I feel like I've gotten stronger. Just digestively, I feel a lot better because I guess when I was eating more of the vegetarian diet, I was eating a lot of beans and grains and processed soy products, and they were kind of making me feel eh. So for me, it's work to go back on a lean protein-based diet. That said, I'm still extremely mindful about where those proteins come from. So I think it just depends on the person and how you feel and how you best fuel your body. I don't think that a plant-based diet or a protein, animal protein-based diet, there isn't like a one solution fits all. So I think it's just whatever feels good and right for you, and also works for what your ethical standards are. I've had experiences with both, and for right now, the animal proteins are feeling a little bit better for me. Okay, yay, now we can talk about yoga. Holly says, suggestions for a yoga beginner. I've been taking classes at my local Y, and I'm thinking about switching to a studio, but I'm scared. I think a lot of us started out at the Y doing yoga in those like less intimidating classes, but the studio experience is like night and day to practicing in more of like a, I would even say not just the Y, but like a gym setting versus a studio setting. Once you go studio, I promise you it'll be really hard to go back to gym yoga. Whether or not you choose like a heated class doesn't even matter. It's usually just the level of instruction and just the feeling. Like the yoga studio is so much smaller than a gym, and it's kind of like becomes a second home for you and somewhere that you look forward to going and practicing with the same people and going to the same teacher. And I would say that the majority of my growth in my practice occurred when I started going to a studio, even though it's scary and it sucks to go to your first class and not know what the teacher is talking about. But if you stick with it, you can form relationships with your teachers, and they can kind of push you outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of times, some of the teachers at the studios just have more experience and more knowledge around programming classes and just information about the body and anatomy and all that. So please don't be scared. As a teacher, I love it when I have new people in my class. I don't ever judge my students. No teacher does. We're just so happy that you're there. I love to see people, struggling and trying to figure out how to work their body and seeing those light bulbs go off. It's super rewarding for us just as much as it is for you too. So I say this in my classes all the time, but always let your practice be something that builds you up and elevates you and makes you feel good about yourself and what you're doing, and don't ever let it be something that causes you self-doubt or tears you down, okay? So go for it, go for it. Also, let me just add in a little thing here too. Bess from Best Be Fit left a comment on my last post about yoga saying that her studio was offering an arm balances and inversions workshop, and she was nervous about whether or not her practice was advanced enough to take it. And my response to that is, Bess, go for it. You're never going to learn this stuff until you try it. And I make all my students practice arm balances in my classes, even if it's their first class. I'm like, here's step one. This is how you begin to get into this arm balance, and maybe this is all you do today. Or maybe you start trying to lift up that leg, and one day, it just happens. But it's not going to happen on day one, and you have to plant the seed in order for it to start to grow. So challenge yourself and step outside of your little box and just be open to learning new things that your body can do. All right, so we will move on from the yoga and let's talk about life. Ashley says, any advice for a student graduating in December, things that you wish you knew looking back? Graduating from college for me was a lot more of a life transition than I ever thought it was going to be. I graduated from college. I went to the University of Georgia. It was a really fun school. I had a great group of friends. Athens was a great town to live in. And then I moved to Charleston, and I moved in with my boyfriend, and you know, it seemed like everything was going to be perfect. I had a great job. I was working at a resort on an island on the beach. I saw the beach as I drove to work every day. I mean, what more can you ask for? But even with all of that, I experienced a major transition of not being in college anymore and adjusting to the working world. I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I picked the wrong job. Maybe I picked the wrong city. Maybe I should move to Atlanta where all my friends are. And I think my biggest piece of advice would just be to tell you that all of those feelings are very, very normal. You're going to question yourself. You're going to question what you're doing. You're going to, you know, enter the working world and be like, oh my gosh, sitting somewhere for 8 hours a day and having to tell somebody I'm leaving for lunch and, you know, wearing work clothes. This is different. This is hard. But everyone goes through it, and just give yourself some time to kind of adjust and get into a groove of adult life, because it's definitely different than college life, but it becomes really fun. And I've made friends in my adult life that have just been so much more in line with who I am and what my interests are and like who my core being in person is. So I don't know how much that helps, but that's just a little tidbit for you. Okay, I have a lot more questions, but I think this is enough for today because we're 11 minutes into this video. So maybe I'll try to check in again with you guys a little bit later this week and touch on some of the rest of the questions. Also, some of your questions and topics are definitely blog post worthy. Like someone asked about tips for becoming a group exercise instructor, and I'll write a whole post on that because I have lots of information to share and just insights on that kind of stuff. So I hope that everyone has had a wonderful Monday and that you have a great week. And again, thank you for not only reading, but for being supportive and good friends. All right? Have a good one.